Hi, everyone. Welcome to my Flash Fellow Forum presentation. Sorry I can't be there today in person, but I'm super excited to see where everyone ended up and then their takeaways and just how their experience was overall. So to introduce myself, my name is Isis Garcia-Rodriguez. I am a PhD student in counseling psychology at VCU, and I was matched with the Office of Recovery Services, which is part of DBHDS. So a little bit about myself. I often think of myself as a researcher and a clinician in training. So I am currently a master's candidate with a concentration in Latinx psychology. And a lot of my research focuses on really more broad areas. So when I look at social determinants of health, I'm really looking at things like immigration policy, redlining, zoning, districting, and how all of those things have a relationship with, impact the mental health of Latinx families generally. Latinx families to me really encompass a wide variety of communities. However, because I am bilingual, I do have an emphasis on Spanish speaking Latinx families. And then within that, I really enjoy looking at adolescents individually, parents individually, the parent-child relationship, and then also sibling relationships, because a lot of my research is within mixed status families. So looking at how the relationships differ depending on someone's immigration status within the family system is super interesting. And then the other area for me that's a really big deal is community-based participatory research, which essentially does is empowers the community to get involved in your research. And it's something that I have been working towards through all of my research so far in my graduate career and a little bit in my undergraduate career as well. So with the Office of Recovery Services, I did a good number of things. And so my team obviously included the ORS staff and then a lot of external partners. So I was able to get on a couple meetings with peer support providers who worked across different districts, mental health offices, clinicians, those stakeholders really in the area of recovery from substance use. And so working with a wide variety of folks, I was even able to work with like the Virginia director of NAMI for Virginia, which is the National Institute of Mental Illness. And so that was a really interesting time just to be able to network and just work alongside people who are now considered, colleagues, because we're working on projects together. And so some of the things included wanting to take the suicide as a common law crime. How do we bring this back to the table to really get rid of that? It's really not a healthy way to look at things like suicide, and it really puts mental illness in a negative light when it should be looked at in a strengths-based perspective. Excuse me. Something else that we really came into the fellowship acknowledging that I was going to be my main focus was a state needs assessment regarding different of the areas in Virginia that was split up because of the Bravo project. We are going to be able to get in a lot more folks to work at ORS, and so those people are going to be in charge of the peer support, supervising the peer support providers. And so what that needed to look like was we wanted to find out what are the individual areas and what are their individual concerns. And so, looking at the Appalachian as compared to Nova, what are the differences in needs, and what is a good starting point for those providers who are going to be coming in supervising, knowing what do they need to really be focusing on in their upcoming career. And so with that came wanting to edit the job descriptions that were going to be used to put out to get people interested in applying to ORS, but just so that we really wanted to reflect a recovery-oriented trauma-informed lens. It's super important to the office and as well really important to me. And so we wanted to make sure that that was really clear. So when people applied, it was going to be pretty obvious like where the office stands in regards to their framework and how we treat people. And then the last piece kind of came out at maybe at a later point, we had been talking about the needs assessment, talking about what was going on with the new hires, et cetera. And we came to this point in which we realized that the individuals who provide services for the community members oftentimes are individuals who are actively in recovery. And at the end of the day, everyone needs services to some extent. And so what we found was that individuals working with ORS to provide services in the community were also needing some way to feel supported within the office. And so we took a lens and a step in a different direction for a little bit to try and find out what are the needs of the peer support providers. And so that has led us in a different direction, separate from the state needs assessment, but more of like an office needs assessment. What are the things that the individuals who work here need from their supervisors? And so we're working on that actively right now. So some of the takeaways that I have. So one thing would be that, when you work with certain people, obviously the way that you interact and your own attitude is going to be shaped by that. And so what I found in working with the staff at ORS and just individuals who work with others in recovery was that mental health, your own, taking things at your own pace and really putting yourself first was extremely important and a number one core value for ORS. And I really, really valued that, coming myself from a counseling psychology program, knowing that was super important to me. That was a really excellent connection there that we all had. Another takeaway is the way that mentorship outside of academia can really shape your career. And as I'm molding what I would like to do, I found that I was really struck by the options that I had. And, being in a PhD program, you think that there's one sort of route. And I'm finding that there's a lot more that maybe I hadn't thought about, or I had thought about, but I was nervous to really explore. And having those mentors outside of the academic space who are in careers that I'm interested in right now has been really eye-opening. And it's just been really excellent to have those connections as well. And with that, networking is really important, and finding mentors and connecting with others, asking questions has been vital throughout this fellowship. And again, kind of connecting, I really found that we had those bi-weekly to weekly meetings where we would have others come in, we'd be able to do some Q&A, and just having that extra opportunity to learn from somebody else, learn what their path was, and understand a little bit about some of the processes that might be coming up for me in the future was really informative and really helpful to just my development over the last couple of months. And lastly, that the fellowship doesn't have to end here. And so one thing that's really great is I will be continuing my work with ORS throughout the year, but also just generally a lot of things that we've learned regarding, starting organizations at your university, or, networking or doing informational interviews. A lot of the stuff that we did in the fellowship doesn't have to stop just because the fellowship ends. And I'm really glad that I was able to grab those skills and really hone in on them and know that I will be able to continue this outside of this space. So what are some of my next steps? So one thing is that one of my mentors works at MITRE, and so we have connected and decided that we might want to move forward and get me a summer internship in DC, which I think would be really, really excellent. And I'm super looking forward to being able to continue that process with them. And something else that for me, like I said, is really important is the community work. And so I would love to continue networking with other sites, other individuals in Richmond and the local area to work on some more community-based initiatives. I have a couple community partners that I work really close with, and knowing that they have a lot of things that they would love to get done. Now that I have a little bit of a better grasp on what this really looks like, what the process looks like, I would be really excited to kind of step into that role and find out how I can help navigate or empower the community partner to navigate it themselves. And like I said, I'll be continuing my work with ORS, and therefore we're really going to start looking at how do we implement these peer support groups, what are the next steps in that, and I'm really looking forward to doing that with them as well. So that's all for me. Thank you so much. I deeply apologize that I couldn't be there in person or live, I guess, but I'm super thankful for this opportunity, and I'm super excited to see where everybody else ends up. Thanks so much.